Examples include images taken to Illustrative magazine article, scientific publication, website or book cover, but may also be outtakes from assignments, stock photography or part of a personal project. This category is suitable for images depicting the interaction of humans and their impact on the natural world, astrophotography and scientific documentation. Entries in this category may be commissioned or self-commissioned. A caption of up to 50 words may be provided to assist the judges in assessing your entry. Okay, let's try this next word. Polyptex, which means many. Polytic, which includes diptychs, triptychs and so on, are permitted. Thanks, Robin, for that clarification. So we're just about right to go. Judges, do you have any questions before we start? Can I just remind you that unfortunately we're running a little late. We do need to run this fairly smoothly, but that is not to have any of the judging compromised out of that. So if we update the judges here. Press the Start Judging button. The print handler's right out the back for the first print. With the first print, please. Thank you. Thank you, judges, for those scores. We have an average of 83, a silver award for the first print. Scoring range there from 82 to 84. Laurie, could you make a quick comment for the benefit of the photographer, please?
Look, you know, looking at from here, they look like brush strokes. When you go in closer, you actually still get that effect from it. And it's got a beautiful quality of gold in there that's contrasting against that blue. So well done to the photographer.
Thanks very much, Laurie. We'll accept that score. And next print, please. Thanks for that score, Laurie. We've got a print score of 79. Thanks very much. A print scoring range 77 to 83. David, you're on 77. Could you give us a quick comment on that, please?
The technical's really well addressed here, and I think that's really good, but it's the clarity of the narrative in here. I'm trying to just sort of link the eggs to the rest of the stories. I'm sort of getting maybe some sort of baking sort of connotation or made food connotation, but if the other articles had a greater relationship, I think, to the eggs, I think it would have given me a little higher score.
Thank you. We'll accept that score. Next print, please. This print has a caption. The image was captured for the sole purpose of a piece of fine art for the wall, but now I feel it would also suit as a decorative illustration for stationery, tiles, fabric, etc. Thank you, David, for that last score. The printer scored 82, a silver award. I have a challenge from David. David has scored it at 87. The print scoring range is 78, 82, 83, 78, and David on 87. David, I'll accept your challenge.
Thank you. What a delightful piece. The diamond style sort of orientation here blends well to the caption that we were offered here in terms of the intention of this piece. But what I really enjoyed was the abstract nature of the initial photograph that was taken here. And I believe it's probably something like a frilled neck lizard or something like that on a stance, but it's been then tilted 90 degrees, and that's the basis of this piece of creation here. And then the post-production that has been applied to the skin of this lizard, which is what I believe, is congruent with the texture of the skin of a frill-necked dragon or lizard, maybe a water dragon as well. But sort of the rotation of these pieces, and then they've given us sort of this abstract sort of patterning here. So I think there's been a higher level of thought and processing that has been offered to us here, and sits comfortably in a silver distinction range.
Thanks, David. Wayne, same microphone. Could you make a comment, please? You had this scored at 78.
Yes, I hear what you're saying, David.
Just a minute, please. Sorry, we need good microphone technique, so very close to your mouth, please. That's great. Just touching it almost, yeah, thanks.
Yes, I agree with what David has said. For me, the image is a very pleasing image, but I don't believe that it had much visual impact for me, and emotionally I'm struggling to connect with it, but I'm certainly listening.
Thanks, Wayne, that's great. Robin, you're on 82.
Yeah, initially I sat this at 82 on the perception of a unique creative piece and something that has not been seen before. Further description, picking up on the fact that this is, I also believe, a frill-neck lizard. It's become an abstract of an organic substance, but it's been turned into something completely polyamorous. It could be anything, and the way your brain plays with it and the scope of where you can go with it is actually quite extraordinary. So I was in the low silvers. I'm moving up towards the high silvers, because this is indeed a truly unique piece that has a texture and a tone and a range of abstract forms within it that actually plays with your mind at quite a sophisticated level.
Thanks, Robin. David, your right of reply, please.
So, Wayne, I'd challenge you on the visual impact. It's a very high contrasting image, practically a black on white. The posture of the, what I'm assuming is the basis of this shot, a frill-neck lizard, the legs are already sort of spread right across, so it's quite an aggressive stance with the lizard. And then the interpretation, the craft and skill that has happened where they've practically silhouetted it, but still given us some texture to echo those of its origin. And I think that, so craft, skill, visual impact, check for me. That's why I've got it in silver distinction. I'd ask you to reconsider your scores, please.
Thanks, David. So David's score stays at 87. If other judges could please rescore. The print scores on average 85, but by majority is 84, so it is still a silver award. So the by majority ruling means that 3 scores were below 85, and that's why it scored the by majority of 84. It works the other way sometimes, but not in this case. Thanks, judges. We'll accept that score. Next print, please. The caption for this print is undiagnosable boxes. A young boy who doesn't seem to fit into any diagnostic boxes struggles with the frustrations of being misunderstood, yet without a proper diagnosis is labelled by others nonetheless, part of an ongoing series. Thank you, judges. The printers scored on average 80, but by majority 79. 3 judges had it under 80. There is a... I should have mentioned this when I started. I will accept challenges from the floor when people are entitled to do it. I need you to be quick and prompt and very obvious. Did you say 79? No. I don't have... I can't... It is not my job to ask if anyone can challenge. If you want to challenge, you need to look at your score and indicate to me that you need to challenge. I'm not going to say, Wayne, do you want to challenge? You have to tell me. And my apologies, you shouldn't push the button. You just need to tell me. So, Wayne, you'd like to challenge? So, Wayne, you're challenging this. Print scored by majority 79. You've scored at 87. The print scores you're working with are 83, 78, 77. Yours at 87 and 77. So, could you speak to that, please?
Yes. I believe the image has incredible intrigue to it. That the fact that there's these nine little pigeonholes that someone can't be perfectly placed into, with all different expressions, and none of it is symmetrical. You know, the pigeonholes are all uneven, and there's this beautiful colour palette around the whole scene, which kind of exhibits doom and gloom, but without any blocked out blacks or anything. I think I believe the image is certainly worthy of a high silver, if not silver distinction. I'd ask judges to reconsider.
David, if you'd like to comment.
Sure.
Please.
I liked the idea that was being explored here, and I think that certainly has merit. But I found a awkwardness in the construction of this image. I'm looking at how the subjects are lit within those boxes doesn't sort of really align with the lighting that is offered to us on the left-hand side to try and give us some sort of reason here. Also, the 9 individual shots here, there are some that are so similar to each other that it's almost like, in my mind, I think there needs to be a progression of story or a really sort of difference in pose here in order to help sort of gel that together. And then also just a little bit of a perspective sort of thing that's going on here as well. So I awarded it, as I said, professional practice, and I think it does have merit. I would certainly think it's worth exploring further.
Any other comments before I ask?
I'll say something quickly, Jeff.
Thank you, Kylie.
I think the lighting does reflect what's happening in the background, because I was a bit concerned that it was too bright on the left, but that is what appears to be lighting the boy's face. The description said it's an ongoing series. It's probably one of those images that needs to be seen in a series to get more information out of it. I think actually from what we're judging here, it's quite successful. It is sitting well with its description. Perhaps it just needs a little bit more finesse on the lighting on the boy, but that's where I'd leave it. I've scored 83 silver.
Thanks, Kylie. Wayne, could you have a right of reply if you want to take it, and then we'll rescore.
I totally agree with what Kylie has said. David, I believe, with all due respect, that the lighting does actually work from the left, because it works nicely with those 9 little boxes. And I would urge people to come up, please.
Thanks, Wayne. So, Wayne, your score stays at 87. Judges, could you rescore, please? The printer's now scored 81, a silver award. Thanks, judges. It was just brought to my attention then that the image that's on the screen and on my monitor here is black and white. You will have noticed in that image that David talked about with the dragons, presented as a diamond image on here. I don't know how presented up there, but on here it's presented as a square image. These images have all been accepted through the correct process, so if there is some discrepancy, the people who make those decisions have decided that it's all fine as it is, please. So we just accept what we see here. Thanks. We'll accept that score of 81 for that print and have the next print, please. Thank you, judges. The print scored 78. Can I have a comment from Laurie, please, on 78?
Yeah, look, well done to the photographer for presenting a beautifully constructed professional image. Everything is sharp. I guess for me, I was sort of looking for a little bit more story in it. I can see the growth, and that's pretty much where it stands. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks, Laurie. Plenty of nods when you said it needed more of a story. Thanks. I'll accept that score of 78 and have the next print. I'll also have a judge change as well. Laurie, could you step down, please? And Kirsten, could you come and join us, please? So Kirsten Woodforth as Judge 3 now. Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you, judges. We had a judge change we just had to enter there. This printer scored 75, a scoring range of 69 to 75. Robin, you scored this at 76. Could you comment on it briefly, please, for the photographer?
Yeah, thank you to the photographer for presenting a rather unique perspective on an everyday item that we see. It's unusual to get something that we see every day and presented to us as a piece of art. Perhaps look at taking it to that next level in terms of creating an abstract element, and I think that will take it up in terms of score.
Thanks, Robin. We'll accept that score of 75 and have the next print, please. Here it comes. This print has a caption. The ancient monk plays the dan bao, a traditional Vietnamese stringed instrument, in the temple where he's lived since he was a young child. From a personal project documenting the cultural aspects of Vietnam's transition from proud ancient kingdom to its own distinct fusion of capitalism and Marxist communism. Thank you, judges. Print has scored 76. Kirsten, could you make a quick comment, please? You scored it at 78.
This image has beautiful...
Microphone nice and close, please. Sorry.
This image has beautiful lighting. It's directly on the musician's face, and the instrument is kind of lost in the bottom, and the foreground hand is slightly out of focus and large and dominant, and I think if that was, better depth of field. But
okay, that's
professional
great.
practice.
All right, let's accept that score of 76 and have the next print, please. Thank you, judges. The printer scored 84, a solid silver award. Our range of scores here were 84, 84, 85, 83, 84. Doesn't get much closer than that. Comment from David? Thank you. Just a quick comment for the benefit of the author.
Yeah, no, really enjoyed this concept here. It looks like the exploration of the afterlife or something like that. I'm looking at the fabric in the foreground here, and there's a little bit of blocking that's happening in some of those shadows and stuff like that that I think would aid the believability of the image. So if you could sort of pay attention to that, it may go further.
Thanks, David. That's great. We'll accept that score and have the next print, please. There's a caption for this photo. Mum's last breath. She saw me into this world. It was my privilege to see her out. Thank you, judges. The print scored 80, but by majority is a 79. David has indicated he'd like to challenge. He scored it at 84, which is 5 off the announced score. The scoring range you're dealing with, David, is 76, 77, 78, 83, and your score on 84. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. I think this is a really interesting commentary on that transition from life to death, and I think the image is well coupled with the caption that we're offered. The windows really help illustrate that purpose of where this, potentially where this soul is travelling now. The room has got quite a cold feel to it. It's juxtaposed by that warm carton sitting in the bottom right corner there. And in terms of a level of piece of communication, I think it sits comfortably in silver. I'd like to hear further.
Thank you for that. Kylie or...
I'd like to make a comment. For
Thanks,
me,
Kylie.
I agree with you. What was distracting for me is that the focus is on all this apparatus around Mum. That's the sharp part, and Mum looks really quite soft and not a nice kind of softness. I know it's not a nice kind of situation, but also the curvature of that room from that lens usage. I feel that if we're going to have a caption saying, something about mother, the emphasis probably should be on Mum more than on the machinery around her.
Any other comments before David's right of reply? Thanks, David. Could you finish this off, please?
Yeah, I don't mind the apparatus that's around here. Like in this transition, if you've been to hospital recently, and I guess I empathise strongly with this. My 96-year-old grandmother is in hospital at the moment and has all this sort of apparatus around her. And so in trying to sort of leave this world of all this paraphernalia that hangs around us, it's part of that story and not just Mum. Mum's it's funny, she's the sort of the little bit that sort of sits here in the middle, and that distortion of that lens, it's a hyper reality here. It's a story that they're trying to offer and trying to wax us or give us a story here. So curvature of the lens doesn't sort of particularly bother me. I'm not sort of after an illustrative an architectural representation. I'm after an illustrative or a concept here. So I'd encourage you to come on up.
Thanks, David. Thank you, Kylie. Print scores 81, a silver award. Thank you, judges, for that work there. I'll accept that score and have the next print, please. There is no caption with this print. Thank you, judges. Print scored 82, a silver award. We'll accept that score and have the next print, please. I'd also like a judge's change while we do this. Wayne, could you step down, please? And Paul, could you come on? Oh, sorry. Thank you, Wayne. Paul, you're judge 4 now. Thank you. Thank you, judges. Printer scored 79. David, you scored this at 88 and you've challenged. I'll accept that challenge. Print score range is 77, 77, 80, 75 and you're on 88.
Thanks, Jeff. What an interesting piece that came around. It was initially, I reconciled it as like the rump of a kookaburra or something like that, that's sort of bent a particular way. But then I get straight past that. Oh, I check my technical detail. I'm looking at my sharpness of feathers and all that kind of stuff, and I check all that off, and yep, that's all really good there. And then I go on the abstraction of this piece, and from sitting from here, it looks like a tribal mask to me. You can see the eyes that sort of sit at the 90, sort of the 45 degrees sort of tilted in, and the nostrils there smack bang in the middle. But I also see a monkey spider at the same time as well, if I want to take a sort of a nature tilt on this. So when it's communicating to me at so many different levels, on so many sort of different, it's not like it's now a nature thing, then it's a tribal mask against the reality of what is actually there. I think that's really, really clever and technically executed well.
Thank you, David.
I'll say something.
Thanks, Kylie. You've scored this at 77.
Yeah, I did, and I went under the award because, for me, the photographer needs to probably give a bit more space and air around it. It looks to me like there could be a square, a crop perhaps, and give us the details that are in the bottom feathers, because that's the really interesting part. But it's been sort of chopped really, really harshly, top and bottom. Also, David, if you could just comment on the feathers, how around both sides at the bottom, I think it's been done in post to create that black effect of the background. It just looks like it hasn't really got the technical quality in there. It's just looking a bit soft and, dare I say, feathery. Sorry, pardon the pun.
Robin, a comment from you, thanks. You're sitting on 77 as well.
The texture and the forms and patterns and the feathers and the sharpness and contrast is definitely to be admired. I think the thing that I would love to see is we've got this beautiful organic structure, but it's been flipped in two halves, and by doing so, it becomes inorganic because it's identical on both sides. I would love some of those elements to cross over from one hemisphere to the other, so it becomes more organic again, and then I think it'll just flow more naturally as an illustrative piece.
Thank you, judges. David, I'll get you to sum up. Thank you.
Sure. In terms of seeing it as a two halves of what you're saying there, Robin, I actually see it as the top half is actually the original image, and there's a reflection. I think it's been shot on like black perspex or something of that nature to give us the reflection. Hence the softening in those feathers down the bottom, Kylie, because we're getting feathering down the bottom, but of the clarity of the image down there. So that's how I clarify that and reconcile that within my head there. But in terms of also the crop top and bottom, when I talked about the tribal mask, I'm seeing it as a portrait. So, you know, sometimes like you crop off either the beard and the top of the head and just really make it about the eyes and the nose and the mouth and all that kind of business. It sits well then as a piece of portraiture for me. So that's how I can reconcile the spider monkey, the tribal mask, and coming back to actually probably what it is in reality, or at least how I sort of see it. So as I sort of said, 3 levels of communication, very cleverly done. Sitting on that black perspex that feathers off, checks those boxes for me. I'd like you to come on up, please, to silver distinction.
Thank you, David. Judges, if you could rescore, please. David, your score stays at 88. Well, you got a bit of the way there, David. The Prince now scores 81, a silver award. Thank you for that. We'll accept that score. And next print, please. Can I just remind you why we're here today? We're in room 2. We're judging the 2019 AIPP Epson New South Wales ACT Professional Photography Awards in the Illustrative category. This category is sponsored by Panasonic. I should remind you about the 2 presentation nights. New South Wales still has some tickets left for Monday night, and ACT has some spaces available for Tuesday night. Information is on the AIPP website on the events page, so please book there if you haven't done so already. We'd like to fill up both of those events. Thank you. Thank you, judges. The print scored 84 by majority, a silver award. This is another case where the average was 85, but by majority 84. Scoring range was from 83 to 87. Thank you, judges, for that. We'll accept that score and... my apologies, sorry. Just a quick comment from Paul.
I just want to applaud the photographer for a very complex, multi-layered exploration of sound, of movement, of courtship, of design and graphics, all together. Exquisitely done. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Sorry, I wasn't looking then. Okay, let's accept that score and have the next print, please. For this photo, it's called, the caption is The Adventures of Supergirl and Her Super Dog. The print scores 82, a silver award. Print scoring range was from 78 to 85. Kylie, you're on 82. Average score. Just a quick comment, please.
Clever piece. I think the parents would probably love this, being child and dog. I couldn't think of anything to add to it to take it to another level, so I think it probably sits very well as silver. Congratulations. Thanks
for that. Okay, look, we'll accept that score of 82. I'll do a judge's change. Kylie, thanks for your time there for the moment. Katie, would you come and join us, please? Katie Kohlenberg from Canberra. Oh, do you want to sleep or not? No. You shouldn't go to sleep in this room, it's too cold. So we'll accept that score and have the next print, please. There's a caption for this photo. A brightly attired woman approaches the tomb of Khai Dinh, 12th Emperor of Vietnam's Nguyen dynasty, bringing a sharp burst of colour to the decaying surroundings. From a personal project documenting the cultural aspects of Vietnam's transition from proud ancient kingdom to its own distinct fusion of capitalism and Marxist communism. Thank you, judges. Sorry, the judges' changing button doesn't work as quickly as it should, perhaps. Thank you very much for those scores, judges. Print scores 76. Katie, you scored at 78. Would you like to make a quick comment for the photographer? Thanks.
The red of the pants is just a little bit too intense. Like it's just looks like it's out of gamut to me. And I don't think there's quite the same things reflected in the orange. So I think maybe if the photographer could just have a look at bringing that back down a little bit, it would make for a much more interesting image.
Thanks, Katie. Print scoring range on this was 74 to 78. Thanks. We'll accept that score and have the next print, please. Thanks for those scores, judges. Print scores 80, a silver award. Print scoring range there from 77 to 84. Kirsten, you heard that at 81. Could you give us a quick comment, please?
This image is very interesting. It's lit from top and bottom. I don't know if the story, I'm a bit lost with the story though. Can't quite figure it out, but it's very interesting. It looks like fun, looks like a bowel, I don't know. Like, you know, you're eating yourself. It could be, I don't know.
Okay, look, thank you. We wouldn't normally have a second comment, but Paul has put his hand up.
I see two ends. I see a person sort of almost like diving into their subconscious or their headspace or their realm, and at the other end, they're trying to pull themselves out and disengage, and there's a whole entanglement and process between the two. I was right up there in 84 because of the complexity of that narrative, and I just felt like the refinement of the printing and maybe the composition could have brought it up another level and made it a little bit more accessible in terms of that narrative.
Thanks, Paul. That's some good comments there. Okay, let's accept that score of 80 and have the next print, please. Thank you, judges. The print scored 86, a silver with distinction. Print scoring range there from 83 to 88. Anybody like to make a comment? Robin, thank you very much.
There's an intriguing story going on here with the entire goat's leg and the meatiness of her head emblem being surrounded by all this ghostness and fastness and skeletons. It's quite intriguing. I would have been in the gold range if we just had more clarity. The birds are really soft, and overall, if we just more sharpness in the image and more detail within that, and it's heading up there in the gold range otherwise.
Thanks for those comments, Robin. We'll accept that score and have the next print, please. There's a caption with this image. It says, "Panic room. A young boy struggle to fit in, which leads him progressively to a path of darkness and feeling like the world is against him. He starts to have nightmares and suffers panic attacks. Part of an ongoing series." Thank you, judges. The print has scored 79. Quick comment from David. Thank you.
So I enjoy the concept, but I think it would have resonated stronger for me. The lighting on the subject's face, the expression's right, but the lighting is overlit for my liking because there's no light source to sort of tell us that it's a bit hot on the face. And the hands that surround the child here, they're almost a bit placid, like whereas there's anxiety or something like that, I would expect more tension in the hands. So if you bring those pieces together, it would sit better with the storytelling, I think.
Thanks, David. Other judges are agreeing with you there, so thanks for those comments. We'll accept that score, have the next print and a judge change. David, you've been on for some time. Could you step down? And Kelly, would you be happy to come and join us now? Thanks, as Judge 5. Thank you. The caption for this photo is "Children of the Sand." Thanks for that score, Paul. The print scores an average of 79. Print scoring range of 77 to 82. Kelly, you scored that at 76. Could you make a comment for the photographer, please?
Yeah, there's a lot to like about this image. I think it's just perhaps it's what's bothering me is the left-hand side and just that sort of coming from the edge of that frame, perhaps. And I think just what you're matting too, it's actually coming away from the top, and that stuff gets a bit distracting as well.
Thanks, Kelly. We'll accept that score and have the next print, please. Thank you, judges. Print scored 80, a silver award. A print scoring range there of 77 to 83. Robin, could you make a quick comment on that, please?
Yeah, I think definitely a bit more oomph in the saturation would pump this up a bit more in terms of the contrast and so forth as well, so that we can really feel the depth of that water. It's just a little bit flat.
Thanks, Robin. We'll accept that score and have the next print, please. There's a caption for this print and it reads, "A woman digs for mussels to sell in the local markets in Hoi Kiem Lake, situated in the very centre of Hanoi City. from a personal project documenting the cultural aspects of Vietnam's transition from proud ancient kingdom to its own distinct fusion of capitalism and Marxist communism. Thank you, judges. Print scores 78. Thanks, Robin. Robin is entitled to challenge this. She's 5 off the announced score. A scoring range you're dealing with, Robin, is 78, 83, 78, 77, and 74.
It's quite easy to overlook an image in an illustrative category that's captured in a documentary format. But I ask the judges just having a look again, there's actually quite a few social commentaries that are happening within this image that are actually very clever. The description has also really helped to identify what it is that the photographer's pointing out here. You look in the far distance, there's this beautiful, beautiful smoky atmosphere, but it's all the city that's in the background and all the details of the little teeny tiny buildings. And the construct is such that she's down the bottom left-hand corner with the waves rippling out her impact in terms of where she is, but the water's murky and disgusting, and you can't even imagine eating the mussels that she's pulling out of the water. So there's all these social contexts that are going on within it. The simplicity of the style and the design makes it a really visually pleasing image, but it's a visually pleasing way of putting across a piece of social commentary, which I think needed to be said. So it's that two elements that I think bring it together, that bring it above into that silver range.
Thanks, Robin. Kelly, you happy to comment on this? You scored this at 74.
Yeah, the inconsistencies, I suppose, because there's this lovely sort of painterly quality to certain parts of it, and then even from back here, just sort of seeing, which, yeah, we could argue that is the smog and pollution, but just this sort of severe, sort of almost burning in pockets. And I suppose that big section of where the subject is, that sort of looks like it has been sort of burnt in, but it could be the environment. And I think just the way it's been handled with that highly saturated clothing, I suppose, which is, realistic, but I think they're things that I would have liked to have seen just a bit more love to those areas.
Thanks, Kelly. Any other comments before we go back to Robin? Thanks, Robin. Your right of reply. Oh, I'm sorry, Paul.
Yeah, I'm curiously on the edge, and I'd really like you to, Robin, to maybe extrapolate a little bit on the sense of design and the deliberateness of the composition, the amount of negative space, particularly on the right-hand side, because I feel that narrative on the top left, less so on the right-hand side of the frame, and yet I feel like there's a very deliberate, masterful decision about the framing, and I'm trying to link the narrative into it, which would probably get me over with you.
Thanks, Paul. Back to you, Robin.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a real hyper-realism to this, hence the intensity in the clothing and the lack of delicacy in dealing with this subject. It's in your face. It's a documentary-style image. The landscape is what I believe you would be seeing naturally in terms of cities and so forth, and then it's moving out to a more rural form, hence the documentary style. This is the environment that she's in. I believe that the placement is incredibly purposefully done in the bottom left-hand side, because she's just one element within the entire environment. And yes, she's a jarring element within that, and it's entirely designed to be as such. Rewarding it for, if you turn the pages in National Geographic and you saw this, you would stop in a heartbeat. It's that lovely blend of documentary and illustrative to create a strong visual piece.
Thanks, Robin. So, judges, could you rescore, please? It currently sits on 78. Robin, your score stays at 83. Thank you, judges. Print now scores 80, a silver award. I will accept that score. We'd have a judges change as well. Robin, could you step down? You've done a fair stint there. Anna, could you come and join us, please? And just while that's happening, could we have the next print, please? Thank you, judges. Print scored 84, a silver award. Some close scoring there, 2 at 86 and 3 at 82. Quick comment from Kelly, thank you.
Yeah, it reminds me of the ABC test screen signal thingy, which is kind of cool. But I think if you go in and really have a close look at each individual image, you can see things that perhaps the photographer can really work on, like straightening up those lines. And it's the finessing within the things within the things within the things that you get those sort of things right. And that's a gold for me because, yeah, visually it's quite spectacular, but it needs some love in those little areas because those little areas will make all the difference.
Good comments, thanks Kelly. So we'll accept that score of 84 and have the next print, please. This image has a caption, and the caption reads, "Flannel Fairies is one of the covers created for a children's book about Australian native flora and fauna." Thank you, judges. The printer scored 83. Thank you. There's a challenge to that. Katie has scored it at 88, 5 above the announced score. The scoring range you're working with, Katie, is 88 your score, then 78, 83, 83 and 83.
Okay. Well, this has just really captured my imagination. I was the little girl that played in the garden with flowers and pretended that they were dresses for my fairies that lived in my garden. So I think there is definitely a personal element here which has captured me, but I'm going to try and take you guys there because I think this is quite a unique image. It's been stunningly printed. It's obviously telling us a beautiful story. Having the description, I think, is really helpful as well. This is flowers turned into beautiful little magical creatures. The palette is so minimal and so subtle and so beautiful. That little ray of light between the staff and the other little fairy up high is magical. I think it takes you somewhere really special, and it's not your typical place where like a little, fairy might be. It's a kind of stormy night, and it's intriguing and a little bit dark. And these flowers themselves are very much, they've been depicted perfectly. They look like you could touch them, and that's exactly what flannel flowers are like. They just have this beautiful tactile quality, like almost like rabbit's ears. And I think they've been depicted as well as turned into something much more interesting. I wanted to go higher than I did. A couple of little technical issues in there that stopped me from doing that. But I think as a silver distinction, it sits so perfectly. I would love for the photographer to work on some of those issues and bring it up to gold. But guys, like it's definitely worthy of a strong silver or a silver distinction. So I'd love to hear why you guys aren't there.
Thanks, Katie. Anna, you scored this at 78. Perhaps you can answer some of Katie's questions.
I can see exactly what you're saying, Katie, and I was just struggling with the story, I suppose, and you've given me a bit of a story, and certainly as a book cover it makes sense because there's good areas for the print of the book, so, I applaud that. I just the narrative was unclear to me, so it'd be interesting to hear other people's views.
Any more comments before Katie sums up? Thanks, Katie. Can you finish it off for us?
I can sort of there's almost music to this image that you know, I'm not going to sit and sing it or hum it. I wish I could do that, but there's a tune, and it's not what you would expect a tune about flower fairies to be. It's kind of a bit foreboding and a bit ominous, maybe showing the not so pretty side of life. It was a children's book that it was described as, wasn't it? So
yes,
I
a
think
children's book about Australian native flora and fauna.
so. Perhaps it's just children's books often have like layered stories, you know, to their content that kind of teach you lessons, and perhaps there's something underneath that, you know, is being perfectly depicted by this sort of dark, foreboding sky. But then there's the beautiful delicacy, and it's about native flowers. So I suppose what you want to see then is the qualities that make this flower itself. So what makes a flannel flower, and it really is that subtle colour, it's that dreaminess, it's the texture, that's all there, and then it's just brought in this extra element, which is the story of the fairies and how a flannel flower might look if it was a fairy, which is kind of monotone, and I mean, they're not necessarily pretty, but they kind of are at the same time. So I think there's a lot more to this than what meets the eye, and it is subtle, and it's maybe not so easy to talk about. I can't give you the exact narrative, but I don't really think it matters. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. That's great. Judges, could you rescore, please? It currently sits at 83. Katie, your score stays at 88. And you've done a great job. It scores 86, silver distinction. Thank you, judges. We'll accept that score. And next print, please. Thanks, judges. Print scored 80, a silver award. Paul would like to challenge that. Paul scored at 85. Paul, you're working with the following scores: 78, 80, 83, you on 85, and 76.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying a sense of commentary here. There's a lovely little reward of an extra plane down the bottom you might not be able to see from the back or on the screen. There's a elaborate sort of repetition. There's wonderful use of shapes and design, and in the bottom, in the top left, is this totally unaffected figure of a bird that's like whatever. This massive jumbo plane's coming past, this huge analogy of flight and these lighting that's probably needed for its landing, and it's like, well, I can do all of this. I'm not impressed at all, you know, like whatever, and it's sort of quite convincingly engaging in that way. So I just went that extra level again. The colours work beautifully together. There's a natural flow through both the angles and the softness that brings you around the frame, and you nudge back in from the right-hand side, and you have to kind of look a little bit to find that narrative. It's not just thrown in your face. Beautifully done.
Thank you, Paul. Comment from Kelly?
Yeah, I have to think the imbalance for me is just inconsistent for my brain to kind of just sit somewhere, because the edge of the frame on the left is way too tight, and I was just the colour sort of luminancy with that blue coming through, and the inconsistency with bits of magenta coming through and bits where it's a bit more saturated at the top. Just for me, just couldn't get it up to a silver just because of those factors.
Thanks, Kelly. Kirsten, thanks.
The repetition of shapes makes this image very interesting. The shape of the plane wings matching the poles, and the little bird is the cherry on top. the raven, looking out the opposite direction. Like Paul said, I can do this. The only thing I would say is the blue, a little bit too much. Tone it down, but otherwise I'll come up.
Thank you for that. Paul, would you finish this discussion off, please?
Yeah, feel free to welcome. I feel like there's a strength in that colour and a separation and a depth that it brings backwards and forwards, and the emotive qualities and cool and warm that just sort of bounce you around sort of internally and externally. And I love the fact that it's just so unabashedly present. You imagine what physically it must be like that close to a jet plane coming past you. It would probably blow you off that perch, and it's just literally like whatever. So the immensity and the singularity of its positioning is beautifully, quite masterfully done, I think. So feel free to come join if you feel drawn to.
Thanks, Paul. So, judges, the print currently sits on 80. No, that's my fault. Now it'll work. I don't know what to do. Sorry, that's fine. Yeah, okay, we're there. So, thanks, judges. Print scores 82, gone up a couple of points. A silver award. That's terrific. Thanks. Okay, we'll accept that score. I'd like to do a judges change. Kirsten, can you step down, please? And Wayne, can you come back on, please? So we'll accept that score and have the next print, please. Judges, can I just tell you that we've been going for an hour and we've done 22 photos. We're trying to do 25 in an hour, so we're nearly there. I don't think the judging's been rushed. I think it's been done well. Thank you, judges. The printers average 86, but my majority is 84, a silver award. There are two people entitled to challenge here. I'll take Kelly's challenge at 92. The scoring range you're looking at is 82, 89, 83, 84, and you're on 92, Kelly.
I feel my heart's racing. I feel really compelled by this image, and props to the photographer for such a unique perspective. To be brave enough to come back where we sit and just get that running commentary of what's going through layers upon layers upon layers of just human interaction done in such different ways. I'd love all the judges here to, if you haven't, just go and explore all these people, because it's just the way people are handling this very sort of spiritual, cultural, if someone has any idea what they're doing, they can maybe help me out here, because I'm not quite sure. But the mobile phone usage, and then there's this one gentleman off to the left of the centre who is just got the most engaged kind of look on his face, like he's just really struggling, and it's quite powerful actually. That's my narrative. I think the technical part, my gosh, like to shoot in this light, this environment with so many conflicting sort of situations, they have done this so well, brilliant almost. It's not overly done. The printing is beautiful. The colour sort of following through to the environment. I feel like I'm kind of there somehow. It's quite powerful actually, and for so many reasons. I'm really strong on a 92. I feel this deserves some of our quality time to talk about.
Thank you, Kelly. Paul, would you like to make a comment? Follow up on that?
Yeah, I feel this is a wonderful exploration of ritual and ceremony and culture. And there's this really delicate, almost cinematic separation in the characters in the background that you can really engage with individually all the way through. I'm sort of trying to work a little bit with all the negative space at the top and that sense of skew in terms of design of where those highlight elements are and how they pull you out of the frame. And there's a repetition of the two characters left and right that I'm just trying to read a little bit further with more dots about the complexity of what that element is also adding to this to come higher with you, Kelly.
Thank you. Anna, you're sitting on 89.
I would have gone straight up to gold. I was just a little worried about those highlights being controlled. That's the only thing. The print itself is absolutely divine. The differences in the expressions of the people, where you've got the ones that are prayerful and really involved in this ancient celebration, the ones that just want to take a photo to put on Instagram and tick it off their list, and then another man who's just not even looking, he's off on a tangent. And then you've got this ancient ritual and the modern ritual of us taking photos, and then you've got the third dimension, which is the photographer taking the photos of the other two things, which is really, something that you forget. You're just looking, that's the third element there. It's been really well handled, and the colour palette is fantastic. It works perfectly. So at 89, I'm very willing to be nudged.
Okay, thank you, judges. Kelly, would you like to have your right of reply, please?
Heart's still beating fast.
That's a good sign.
Sorry?
That's a good sign.
Yeah, no, it's good. Maybe just if I can address the things that have been raised, I suppose, with the highlights, like, it's smoke coming through pure sun, like really bright light, like that. It's not meant to be there. It doesn't exist. So I'm quite okay that it's it doesn't have a highlight detail, I guess. And for the space at the top, it gives me that sense of just having it being so tactile, and that smoke, the way it's been captured, is just sort of leading up to the top. That if that was sort of cut if cut down too much, I think we would have wished it had more space to breathe, and this is what this is about. It's just sort of that sense of environment, I suppose. But the characters, what's interesting, and having another look, is the people with all the mobile phones. They're all over 60. It's the young people that are really engaged in this environment. That's really interesting. Look, I think there is just a painterly quality to it that the photographer who has done this has taken a lot of care, and that requires a hell of a lot of skill, and I think they really, really should be rewarded with something more than a silver.
Thanks for that, Kelly. Well, let's see how we go. Judges, could you rescore? Kelly, your score stays at 92. Thanks, Kelly. Print scores 90. So the print score's 90, which is a really great result. The average was 89, but it's a 90 by majority. You should take it, so I think that's terrific. Thanks, judges. I think that's a great discussion and our first gold in this room today. So, well done. Let's accept that score and next print, please. There's a caption for this photo, and it's called Brain Glitch. A young boy struggles with his emotions and self-control. He doesn't understand the world around him and why it is so harsh toward him. Angry and frustrated, hurt and lonely, his emotions are just too big, part of an ongoing series. His emotions are just too big, part of an ongoing series. Thank you, judges. Printer scored 82, a silver award. Wayne, you're sitting on the average there. Could you give a quick comment for the benefit of the photographer, please?
Yes, it's a very well executed image. It's got good emotional connection. And that's all I have to say really about it.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Thanks, judges. We'll accept that score and have the next print, please. Judges, you know the deal. Yeah, no talking up there, thanks. My apologies, there is a caption here. It just says, when your number's up. Thank you, judges. Print scores 86, a silver distinction. Anna, you scored that at 84. Would you like to give us some words of encouragement, perhaps how the photographer might get this up to a gold award at AIPP?
This print has a lot of different narratives. You could take it different ways. The biggest one, escaping, them being his minions, them all being dead. There's so many different ways, and I love that it's so quirky that you can see so many different things in it. I would have liked to see the tail of the big dragonfly. So if that's possible and a little bit more space, wouldn't hurt it at all. So that's the only thing that I think you could do, and that could possibly get it up.
Thanks, Anna. Great comments. Okay, we'll just have a judges change. Paul, you've been on for some time now, and David, could you come back, please, as Judge 4? This, David, yes, thank you. Thanks, Paul, for that. We'll accept that score and have the next print, please. Why can't I see it? Oh, there we go. That's all we need. Thank you. There we go. Thanks, judges. We've got a print score there of 81, a silver award. There's a print scoring range of 77 to 83. Katie, you scored at 82. Let's have a comment from you.
Yeah, this has got great impact and humour. I would just knock back the sharpening a tiny bit. It's just a little bit overly sharpened, and it's really hard to see past that.
Thanks, that's great. Okay, let's accept that score and have the next print, please. Thank you, judges. Printers scored on average 85, but by majority 84, a silver award. Let's have a quick comment from David. You scored this at 88.
I'm being chastised here for being under, and I do feel now like this. The narrative of this is so strong, and I'm hoping this is on the way to AIPP, because it's just she holds the keys to life, and there's the come bearing, gold, wearing gold beforehand, don't make it kind of is. It's just superb. Sorry, I haven't got anything else to better it up.
Okay, that's good. Thanks for that. Okay, let's accept that score and have the next print, please. There's a caption for this image, and it's titled Blue Sorrow. Blue Sorrow. The print score has averaged 85, but by majority is 84, a silver award. There's a challenge from Kelly, which I'll accept. Kelly's scored this at 93. Thank you, Kelly. Could you talk to the print, please?
I got to really hope I do this justice, because, man, there's a real strong sense of sort of emotion to this, and we're not working with very many elements here, so it's difficult sometimes because you want to go in and sometimes not just enjoy it for what it is, but look for things that aren't quite right. And 93 hit my head the second I laid my eyes on it. So, look, it's just beautiful in its design. It's captivating. It's I think if we can all be honest, we could probably come up with 5 very distinct individual stories that mean something to us. You know, what I can see is we have 3 very isolated birds flowing in that perfect highlight, which mirror 3 very ghostly figures off to the right. I feel like it's a sense of something I would see on Anzac Parade, like a war, what do you call it, memorial or something. Like, it's really powerful. And I think, I hope someone can come up and join me and have much more distinctive words than I do right now, because I'm a little bit lost, I must admit. It's really the choice of delicacy with its printing and just that slight tone through that monochrome sort of feeling just adds to that sombre. Oh man, it's doing something for me. I gave it 93 and I'd like a gold, thanks.
Thanks, Kelly. So David's going to comment on this. David scored this at 84.
Yeah, I was a bit Jekyll and Hyde in my scoring here, and I'm certainly going to move here. What was the title of the piece again, please, Jeff?
Blue Sorrow.
Yeah. And that sat so nicely once I travelled down the pathway down here, and as Kelly said, we're working with so few elements, and it's almost a journey that we can sort of take, but the blueness is also maybe about sorrow or anxiety or something like that, and yet there's that little repetition of the figure there that's hiding in the right-hand side. It's almost like something that's hiding in the woods and something that plays in the back of our minds. It's the doubts that sort of play there. So, and yet the birds are sort of circling overhead, sort of, you know, whether they're sort of waiting for you to trip and fall or whatever it is kind of business. It's really sort of quite dark and pessimistic here, but still a very good piece of communication. I'll be certainly coming up substantially.
Thanks, David. Any other comments? Anna, happy to take your comments. You scored it at 78.
Scoring this at 78 is difficult for me because I see what you're saying, the dark dystopian scene, and I want to feel it, and I'm wondering if it's just part of me that's having trouble with it, because it's the depth of us. The depth is really uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable picture. So I'm really very keen on listening and seeing what other people have to say, but it's jarring, and so I found it very difficult to score.
Okay, Kelly. No, I think you're it now, so if you'd like to sum up, thanks.
Yeah. Ooh. Okay. On close inspection, thank you. Again, it's just it's like I can almost see it moving, and these birds that are sort of moving throughout this scene in just the right little pockets. But the way the photographer has photographed and post-processed and handled these elements on the left and the right is masterfully brilliant. I don't know how they did it. It's so delicate, it's so subtle, and for something that is having a really powerful sort of emotion to me, it's like, man, you could have done so many different things with this, but you've chosen to give us not much, and that's brave, I think, and it's creative, and it's such a strong piece of visual communication for me, clearly, because it's getting me all a bit sort of riled up. So I can't, if you can't feel it, just look for it's masterful in other areas perhaps. But give it a go.
Thanks, Kelly. Judges, could you rescore, please? It currently sits on a majority 84. Kelly, your score is 93 and stays there. Congratulations, judges. Scores 90, a gold award. Thanks. Thanks, Kelly, for that work. That was terrific. So we'll accept that score and have the next print in just a second. We'll have a judge change as well. Katie, you've been here for a while. Could you step down? And Kylie, could you come back? Thank you. Can we have the next print, please? Thank you, judges. Print scored 85. Silver with distinction. Print scoring range there from 82 to 88. David, you scored this at 82. Perhaps you could give us a comment about this image.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking they're like pyres or something like that, and there's a end of the day or beginning of the day, sort of a twilight sort of time happening here. What held me back from going higher in my score was the treatment of the figure on the right-hand side here. He looks a little bit overworked, trying to bring too much detail out. A little bit of restraint would have lifted my score.
Thanks, David. We'll accept that score and next print, please. There is a caption for this image, Brolga with apple, as part of a book about Australian native flora and fauna. Thank you, judges. The print scores 84 by majority, a silver award. So the print did average 85 and the print scoring range was 82 to 88. Kelly, you scored this at 82.
I want to make a suggestion. I think the background is just the texture in the background. Just bring it back 50%. For me, especially in the sort of bottom left-hand corner where the highlights sort of are coming through a bit more. It's a bit too textured, and I think it would have made that separation between the subject and the background a bit more distinctive, and I would have scored it a bit higher.
Thanks, Kelly. There's some other judges agreeing with you there as well. We'll accept that score and have the next print, please. There's a caption for this image, and it reads, "Fallen angel, a young boy struggles to fit in. He feels misunderstood and is judged harshly by others. He loses optimism, his self-esteem suffers, and he becomes angry, defensive, and mistrusting of others, part of an ongoing series. Thank you, judges. The printer scored 78. Print scoring range of 77 to 81. Quick comment from David. Thank you.
I think the caption actually overdid it here. There was a lot of emotions that were listed in there that I couldn't quite get out of what was there. And the other thing also too was just the size of the roses above the subject here relative to the roses underneath. There's an imbalance there. They're not quite in correct perspective.
Thank you, David. So we'll accept that score and we'll have a judge change as well. So Kelly, you've done 48 minutes. So thank you for that. And Robin, could you come back on, please? Robin Campbell will now be Judge 5. Can we have the next print, please? Thank you, Judge. Judges, the printer scored 81. Thank you, Wayne. I'm sorry, the printer scored 81, a silver award. You can clap for that. That's great. And Wayne has challenged this. He's sitting on 87, 6 above the announced score. The scores you're working with, Wayne, are 76, 83, 87, 83, and 78. I'll accept your challenge.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, this image has amazing humour. It's very, very well composed. It's incredibly sharp. Printing is beautifully done. And all of the chickens almost are interacting with one another, which the more I look at it, the more attracted to each of their individual poses or whatever they're doing. And I just think the photographer has done an incredible job in constructing this image to portray that to us. And I'd ask the fellow judges to maybe explore this a bit.
Thank you for that, Wayne. I think Kylie's ready to go.
Yeah, well, I knew with my score I'd have to justify that.
Your score was 76.
76, correct. So I can see that there's humour trying to be pushed into this image, and I think it's just missed the mark for me, whether it's dancing chickens or whether it's interacting chickens. A lot of them look like they're very flat-footed, like they are standing on the ground or whatever it is, but their shadows are appearing as if they are flying and dancing. So there's that disconnect for me with the shadowing, which has been put in compared to the stance of each chicken. So individually, yeah, the chickens are quite good, hence 76 professional standard, but I think in terms of construction, there's a little bit more tweaking possibly needed.
Thank you, Kylie. Wayne, I think if you can respond to those comments, we'll ask you to do that, and then we'll rescore.
Yes, I somewhat agree with you, Kylie. But I think that the overall humour within the image and such separate poses, dances, whatever they're doing, overrules that somewhat.
Thank you. So, judges, it currently sits at 81. Wayne's scores stays at 87. If you could rescore, we'll see how we go. Thanks, judges. Comes up to 83, a silver award. Thanks for those comments. We'll accept that score and have the next print, please. There is a caption for this image, an illustration of the mystery and beautiful unpredictability of dry ice as it spontaneously dances and spins. Thank you, judges. Print scores 83, a silver award. There are, Robin has indicated she'd like to challenge, and I'll accept that challenge, Robin. You're sitting on 88. There's another 88, which is Kylie, an 81, 84, and a 76.
Cool. Yeah.
Thanks, Robin.
This is entirely what Illustrative is all about. It's abstract, but there's a journey that goes there. My initial impression was that it was eyeballs with irises popping out from their fixtures. So immediately my brain went into that mode of what else can I see within this abstract form? The 4 different black holes being different shapes. You then put into asteroids and galaxies, and your mind is just left to wander in this beautiful blend of monotonous tones that then have this texture and smoke and swirls and forms, and the fact that it can just take me in so many different directions, and the clarity and the way that the forms break out of the black and into the white, and you've got these greys that are going into the starkness. This is fine art in its absolute perfect form. So yeah, definitely silver distinction.
Thank you very much for that, Robin. David, would you like to comment? You're sitting on 76.
At the ready, Jeff. I found the journey hard to decipher. It was the clarity of the narrative. They are quite small orbs, balls there that we have there, and the actual bits of dry ice that are sort of dancing around as the caption sort of led us. I didn't feel it was illustrated clearly enough for my liking. I get the galaxies idea that you could explore, but again, size could come into play here, and I guess just found it a bit too fine, a bit too little, and a bit too not enough for me to be actually able to resolve that and follow you down that same storyline.
Thank you, David. Kylie, you're sitting on 88.
Hello, I will support Robin with this. And for me, the word dry ice, you don't need it. I don't need to know that this is dry ice. I need to see the etherealness about these shapes. I think you're probably hung up on what the subject is as to, okay, I need definition now. Whereas it's the beauty of the shape, of the flow of each image, but there is a connection between the 4 circles that are there. I find it really appealing in terms of the shape, the subtlety, I think, Robin, you used the word, no, you didn't use cosmic, but it has that cosmic, ethereal, black hole, space. So it doesn't matter how we got there. That's not the important part. The important part is what is being presented to us. And I think it's beautifully different, beautifully soft and flowing, and printed really, really well for what we're seeing here. So very well done at 88. I might even just push up a little bit more.
Thanks, Kylie. Any more comments before Robin's right of reply? Robin, could you finish this off, please?
Yeah, the beauty of art is the subjectiveness. And as I went up yet again and had a look, I could see mushrooms, I could see flowers, I could see different things yet again. And when your mind's left to interpret, for some of us, it's a very easy job to be able to find stories and to enjoy the interpretation. For others, it's somewhat more challenging. Depends on how you're wired. There's enough in here to be able to bring out many, many, many different stories. And that's what pushes it into the silver distinction range.
Thanks, Robin. So, judges, the print's sitting on 83 at the moment. Could you rescore, please? Robin, your score stays at 88. Nice work. We've got 87, a silver distinction. There we go. It's had a lot of comments already, David, but go quickly. Really
Sorry,
quickly.
I just wanted to agree with Kylie's comment that maybe the dry ice, I did get hung on that, and make sure that your narrative or your text that you supply is really relevant to the piece, not just sort of filling your 50 words perhaps, you know?
Well, I'll just follow up on that. We talked to Bill Backman about the judges training, and he feels there's a need for a section on caption writing. And I would agree, because there's some photos have been destroyed by the captions. Yes. We've got in-flight service from Matt here. Just you got 15 seconds, Matt, to do your work. Thanks, man. That's great. No, I'm fine, thanks. So we'll accept the score on the last print, and next print, please. Thank you, judges. The printer scored 83, a silver award. Anna, can you give me a comment, please? You scored this at 78.
Yes, well, what we've got to work with here is, the face and the hands, and the face is absolutely divine, but the hands are very clumsy. And I was having trouble getting past those hands. If you could just give us some new hands, some really beautiful, delicate hands, I'd be super, super happy.
Thanks, Anna. There's some other judges there agreeing with you. So we'll accept that score, and could we have another judges change? They were great comments, Anna, but I'd like to change judges now. Thank you, and we'll bring Kirsten back on. And can we have the next print, please? Next print, please. Sorry, I was too many things going. I thought you were misbehaving. Next print, please, judges. Print handlers. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, too many things going on. There we go. That's all right. We're back in. Thank you, judges. The printer scored 79 by majority. It did score 80, but 79 by majority. I'll accept that score. And we'll have the next print, please. Oh, I'm sorry, we'll have a quick... Sorry, just hold that print. Sorry, I forgot. We just have another quick comment, please. This time I'd like it from Kylie. Thanks, you're on 82.
Very musical, very whimsical, very central composition. And the technique gives noise down in the darker areas, which even from back here, there looks to be a horizontal line. And I don't know if that's intentional or if it's just through the technique, if we need to work on that. But probably at another place, another time, you'd get a slightly different score.
Okay, thanks, Kylie. It's nearly there. Judges, we'll accept that score and we'll have the next print, please. There's a caption for this: sunflowers in varying stages of life. Thank you, judges. Print scores 79. Print scoring range of 78 to 83. Quick comment from Wayne. You're sitting on the average, Wayne, or close to it at 78?
Yes, the image has got a nice feel to it with regards to the symmetry and the tonal range. But I feel that as well as the symmetry is nice, the parts of the sunflower leaves and the sort of bottom right-hand corner as we look at it, leading around the image, upsets that symmetry somewhat, and I think it makes the image a little bit unbalanced.
Okay, thanks for that. A few other judges agreeing there. Thanks very much. So can we have the next print, please? Thank you, judges. The print is scored by majority, 84. A silver award. Thank you. The average was 85, but as a by majority is 84. David's indicated he'll challenge this. He's scored it at 94. So that's 10 points above the announced score, which means that everyone can comment. You don't have a right of reply, and you can rescore.
So better make it good, hey?
Yes, you get one go.
What a cinematic piece here. There's a love story happening across these two balconies with the lady on the right, the gentleman on the left, standing on their balconies, sharing gazes. The construct of this piece gives us quite a grungy sort of feeling down the structure that they actually stand upon, yet there's detail retained the whole way down that structure. It's a real finesse that's been shown in this construction of this piece. The symmetry of the tree right in the middle is offset by the moon that's sort of sitting up there in the clouds, just peeking through the clouds, again harking really sort of subcontinental cinema that we're sort of seeing here. So I can hear some sort of, Indian tune happening in the background here while this love story unravels here. So there's a real sort of connection here, and they're the only two things that are really, the subjects here are the only things that have sort of any real colour beyond the rest of the palette here. So our eyes drawn here almost in a triangle from woman to tree to man to the moon. There's like a diamond that works around in here. Very cleverly constructed, highly worthy of a gold.
Thanks, David. Comments from any other judges? Thanks, Kylie. You scored 82.
Yeah, I'm looking confused and perplexed because I see it as a portrait of a tree, and the people are not having that loving gaze that you talked about. So it's fighting itself at the moment. The other thing that I can see is the way that the building on both sides tends to converge towards the centre and is leaning back. I was wondering if technically we had to get in and just start to skew things a little bit to get straight verticals. I'm sure that this is one of those images where I think we need a caption. A caption would probably help us, because I'm sitting here thinking, am I judging a portrait of a tree? Am I judging a love story? I'm a little bit torn, I guess. I think printing, fantastic. Colour palette, fantastic. But, what's holding us together?
Thanks, Kylie. Robin?
Yeah, I'm on 83. I'm going to raise my score just slightly. The issue here that I believe that we're dealing with is that there's no tension, there's no emotion, there's no connection. We've just got elements, and it's very stagnant in its form. And as a film set, I can understand that and I can appreciate it if that's the cinematographic side of it that we're looking at it from. But overall, without that tension and connection, it's like an assembly of ingredients creating something, and it's just not congruent. But certainly the technique, I am going to raise my point. It's a few bits. But yeah, if we could just have that connection, it'd be amazing.
Thanks, Robin. Kirsten, comment from you?
The story is lost on me. I went up and had a look. I thought, is there a red apple under that tree? Is there something that's going to give me a little bit more story? I see a religious connotations even. That red apple under the tree. And I do agree with Kylie on the straightening of the verticals. My OCD is struggling. And the negative space, it's so bright and white, but there's the moon. Yep, I saw the moon beautifully offset to one side. I will come up a couple, but yeah.
Thanks for that. Judges, look, I think we'll end the discussion there, and it sits on a majority 84 at the moment. You can all rescore. Thanks, judges. You've moved it up to a silver distinction at 87. Good discussion there. We'll accept that score and have the next print, please. Just a couple more scores to come in and then we'll have an answer. Thank you, judges. Print scores 84, a silver award. You got to tell me properly, firmly, stick your hand in the air and say, thank you. Thank you. Kirsten has scored this at 90, so she can make a challenge there. And the print scoring range is 83, 90, 83, 83 and 83. Thanks, Kirsten.
A stunning example of my favourite kind of porcelain, and she looks like porcelain. Her skin is radiant and every part of her looks like it's a piece of beautifully painted porcelain. Her pose is beautiful, symmetry, her shoulders, the circle coming round, highlighting her face, her hair is perfect, profile, stunning. Favourite colour is blue, so it's all just, as soon as it came round, I just went, wow. I'm sure everyone can be team Illustrative and come up a few.
Well, there are 4 83s. David, you'd like to comment? Thank you.
Yeah, I absolutely love that porcelain effect, and the translucence of her skin is beautiful. But what's the story? What's the narrative? What's the emotional connection I'm getting here? Yes, she could be like a figurine, that's a painted figurine that sort of stands there, you know. And the treatment to her hair, I mean, okay, are we still leaving her as a model, or are we transcending her now into that figurine, into that statue? Yeah, and that's where I want more to, you know, lift my score.
Thanks, David. No other comments from judges? Kirsten, your right of reply, please.
She is the porcelain on display. She is the ornament. We're here to look at her and admire her. So please, give us a few more points.
Thanks, Kirsten. Okay, it sits on 84 at the moment, judges. Let's rescore, please. Kirsten, your score stays at 90. Thank you, judges. Moved up to 86, a silver distinction. Thanks. We'll have a quick judges change. Who was I going to take off? Oh, Wayne, you've been here for quite some time. Laurie, could you come and join us as judge number 3? Laurie, this Laurie. Thank you. Thank you, Laurie. Can we have the next print, please? Next print, please. Laurie, have you put your score in? Thank you, Laurie. Print scores by majority, 84, a silver award. Print scoring range was 83 to 88. It averaged 85, but by majority was 84. That's what we want.
That's what we want. Again, it's probably just being OCD, but there's a little bit more window on the left than it is to the right. I don't know if we need to just even that up because we've got such a beautiful straight building in the background. Maybe that's just one thing to consider.
Thanks, Kylie. That's great. Okay, we'll accept that score and have the next print, please. The caption for this image reads, "Made with love and delivered by a true Australian pelican." Thanks, judges. The printer scored 81, a silver award. Robin has scored this at 88 and would like to challenge the print scoring. The print scores you're working with, Robin, are 77, 80, 82, 78, and you're on 88. So I'll accept your challenge. Thank you.
The delicacy and craftsmanship in this image is really quite unique. The depth in that black, it's like you're looking at charcoal on a page and then the chalk that's been drawn on there as well. And have a really close look at what a great job they've done actually ripping away the base all around the outside to give it that yet again hand-carved feel. As a beautiful, simple piece of communication, so elegant. I could see this on a bedroom wall, really, really large. It's the simplicity, but the beauty and the technique that separates it from a lot of other images. It's gone out there and tried something new and different and fresh. And as a little piece of art, I think we should be, pushing it up that little bit higher for its uniqueness and rewarding it as such.
Thanks, Robin. Kylie, you scored this at 77?
I did, because the photography element of this being the baby, I find very clumsy in its handling. The foot for me, it stood out as a distracting piece. I wondered if it was a little boy at first, because from back here, the foot is just not looking right, and the shadowing and the way the hands are placed, it's not looking like the best way to actually photograph a newborn baby. The rest of the image is a photograph of somebody's beautiful artwork. Then for me, Robin, I found that tearing, although is perfectly done and I admire that, was a distraction again. So I'm finding distracting elements keep fighting, trying to look at the baby. Do agree, parents probably love this and would look fabulous on the nursery wall, but from an awards point of view for me, I had to come back to that photographic element of the baby, and it's just been drawn down.
Thanks, Kylie, for those comments. No other comments? Robin, could you finish off, please?
Yeah, this is what I love about judging, because I love that the baby's broken out of its little cocoon. I love that it's not your stereotypical, let's wrap up every part of the baby, here's a formula how to do it on YouTube. You know, they've gone about it in their own special way. And yeah, there's a little foot sticking out in there. It's because it's in this little carriage basket, and that's what makes it just that little bit more unique and special. It hasn't followed any formula that's been set as a precedent. It's carved its own way and its own path as a beautiful piece of art. And certainly silver distinction, it's out there with creativity.
Thanks, Robin. Judges, could you rescore it? Currently sits on 81. Robin's score of 88 stays. Thanks, judges. The print now scores 82. Still a silver award. Thanks for those comments. Let's accept that score and have the next print, please. There's a caption for this image here, created as a potential cover for a children's book about Australian native flora and fauna. Thank you, judges. The print scores 87. Silver distinction. Laurie's done the right thing. Put her hand up quickly. And would like to challenge it, which is fine because you've scored at 92, Laurie. So let's hear that challenge, please.
I actually hesitated putting my hand up because I thought somebody else was going to do it too. So, but definitely, I've put this into the gold without any hesitation at all. Everything about this image has been so well thought out. The printing of each element within this has been handled so well. There's no blow and highlights. There's blacks everywhere. There's been a lot of thought about placement. There's, you know, this could be wallpaper. It could be so many different things. There's colour in there. There's technique. There's innovation in terms of the way they've styled it as well. I'm particularly excited about the fact that they've got parts of their design stepping outside of the box, and they've refined that and fine-tuned it to the point that everything in this picture is immaculate. I couldn't fault it, and I'd be really interested to see or hear from you guys what your thoughts are and why we weren't all going to gold straight away.
Robin, would you be happy to talk to that? You scored at 82.
Yeah, it's a stunning collage of flora and fauna, and it's been put together in a very, very aesthetically pleasing way. I think the element that I was holding back on was the actual bird portraits themselves. Some of them are quite awkward, and some of the eye contacts and so forth aren't there. And in terms of actual bird photography, there isn't as much strength as I would have liked in a gold. But I'm certainly listening because it's a stunningly created piece, and there is lots of beautiful elements in there to admire.
Thanks, Robin. David, comment from you would be good. You're sitting on 89, nearly at gold.
Yeah, nearly gold. And it's what Robin actually said that held me back from going to gold. And it's only one lorikeet that's hanging down there in the bottom right corner. He's sort of got this really sort of pulled back sort of posture about him. But I can justify all the other poses within here of the birds, particularly the pair that sits in the top right corner, because they are quite boisterous. It's almost like there's a lot of bluff in these birds. They act big and bold as brass, but they can back down pretty quick. They'll squawk a bit at you, but before they go, there's some in there that are feeding, so they're sort of doing this and they're really enjoying those gum nuts. So yeah, I was just a little tentative at holding back there, but I think I'm on my way there. But yeah. And Laurie said wallpaper. I thought wallpaper, and that's not in a disparaging way. I can see this as on a child's room, sort of just Australiana, celebrated.
Thank you for that. Laurie, let's finish it up.
I'm excited that you guys brought all that stuff up because I went up and had another look at it. And I think for me, where it actually has connected the most is that I can see humanity in this. I can see lots of little different stories about love, life, and loneliness. And that's where it's connected with me. You know, the little story up the top where one bird's handing over a flower to the other bird. Down in the bottom left-hand corner where they're sharing a meal together. There's in the right bottom corner being very comfortable, being lonely and being by themselves. And in the middle, just, different sort of humanities sort of that's brought this image, that context for me that's made it closer to my heart. So, it's got that emotional impact for me as well as it being beautifully designed and all the extra special stuff that we've already added to it. So, you guys, it's gold. It's a 92. Let's go there.
Let's see how we go. Thanks, Laurie. It currently sits on 87 judges. Laurie's score stays at 92. And got a gold at 90. Thanks. Thank you, judges. Thanks, Laurie, for that challenge. And the photographer will be really pleased with that. So let's accept that score and next print, please. This image has a caption: French colonial Vietnam meets AD 900 Vietnam. An elegant gentleman strolls through the ancient army training ground at Hao Lu, Vietnam's ancient 1,000-year-old capital, from a personal project documenting the cultural aspects of Vietnam's transition from proud ancient kingdom to its own distinct fusion of capitalism and Marxism, communism. Thank you, judges. Print scores 76, falling in the professional practice range. A quick comment from Kylie. Thanks.
It was
Sitting on
print
75.
quality that I think really needs to be looked at, perhaps a different paper even, perhaps even black and white. I think the story's there, it matches the caption, elements are placed nicely, but it just, I don't know, it feels like it's too sharp, it's too overworked to try and get the meaning out of the elements there.
Thanks, Kylie. Print handlers, could we have a blank screen, please? We'll accept. That's it. Thank you. So thank you, judges. Thank you, print handlers. Thank you to those that listened on live stream. That's the end of the illustrative category. Not sure what's going to happen next, but 5 or 10 minute break would be. This was sponsored by Panasonic. Thank you.